Here are the top 3 things feminists do not want you to know about Gamergate. Number 1, the press has no idea what Gamergate is and is about, and the feminists like it that way. The fact of the matter is that the stated goal of Gamergate is to bring to light the proven collusion between game journalists and game developers to promote each other and to present an unfair representation of their games to markets. Sites like Gamersutra and Kotaku, among many others, as well as people who participate in larger publications like Game Informer, have been known to be direct friends and even lovers with game developers and basically laud and promote those people's games regardless of how good they are. Now that's simple enough. And it's true, but unfortunately, there are a large amount of trolls, some of which probably aren't even gamers or don't even care about the issue, who just want to put the feminists back in their place. Now, the feminists would like to go on the news and tell you that this is a widespread, homogenous organization of people who literally just hate women and are trying to protect a male-dominated environment that is gaming. And they will tell every single news organization that pities their perceived victimhood. In truth, it's the feminists who are the oppressors. We'll get to that in a second. But the fact of the matter is that despite whatever threats have and have not occurred, nothing bad has happened to these feminists, and almost all threats have been deemed non-credible, especially the ones against Anita Sarkeesian. Number 2, despite what some Gamergaters would have you believe, this is something of a culture war between social justice warriors, particularly feminists, and gamers. It is important for you to know before we continue that all a gamer is a person who is a video game enthusiast. A person of no particular race, creed, age, sexuality, or gender who plays video games as a hobby is a gamer. The feminists will say on mass media and to your face that a gamer is a neck-bearded white male who lives in his mother's basement who is just generally a bad person and is sheltered and greedy and generally just disgusting. They will paint this horrible fucking bullshit picture of what a gamer is when gamers are little girls, old men, whoever plays games. But the fact of the matter is that all these articles that were eventually proven to be produced via collusion between feminists and developers, basically feminist journalists, and game developers, to produce this gamers are dead swath of articles. Now, gamers aren't dead because video games are still a multi-billion-dollar industry that currently outstrips both film and music in terms of sales. So, gamers are still here because all gamers are people who play games. But see, that brings me to the third point, is that the reason why it is something of a culture war is because feminism simply wants to take over this space. Much like what happened to atheists with the Atheism Plus movement and the Free Thought blogs fiasco. Feminism says it is the responsibility of atheists, in this previous example, to also be social justice warriors. They set up this space. Rather prestigious atheists like P.Z. Myers are a part of this, and they set up their space. But I don't particularly know how much they talked about atheism, but they certainly talked about feminism and social justice warring. And many people who are outspoken feminists simply tried to bring some skepticism and rationale to the points made by the premier Free Thought blogs elite, and they were roundly blocked, kicked off the site, blacklisted at certain conventions, and also defamed and libeled and slandered, including and up to false rape allegations that were simply intended to discredit these people who disagreed with them. Essentially, that particular feminist movement, which is not alone in this behavior, is essentially like Scientology, branding people as suppressive persons and attempting to ruin their lives. And feminism is here to do the same thing with gaming. Feminists don't want games to be more inclusive because they already are. Feminists don't recognize that video games are a capitalist market where the demand is apparently for things that feminists don't like, including white burly featureless space marines, as well as many other things. They will tell you half-truths like half of all gamers are women. Well, there's a lot of women who probably wouldn't use the word gamers about themselves, but they'll fill out a survey and say they play Farmville and Candy Crush and Kim Kardashian Dress Up, as well as some more supposedly male-dominated spaces like the surprisingly cosmopolitan MMORPG sphere, like World of Warcraft has plenty of girls, but they are a minority, and so forth. But feminists don't want to just introduce more characters. They haven't exactly stated their goals, but I'm assuming they want more black people and gay people to be the protagonists of games, and they want to completely eliminate any narrative of saving a princess in a castle, because that's sexist apparently, even though it's just a game, and that video games can't produce any violence against women, only violence against men, because violence against women is sexist. And the thing is, video games can't be allowed to be fantasy and produce a narrative that is not representative of real life because it is fantasy, but needs to be a very progressive, pro-woman, pro-handicapped, pro-gay, pro-gender queer, whatever that is, transgendered people, etc., etc., etc. There's plenty of games that are representative by female protagonists, younger protagonists of different ethnicities other than white, but the feminists won't tell you that. They need to strawman and misrepresent reality to try to remind you that the key thing to focus on is that women are oppressed, downtrodden people and need your help to be represented in fucking video games, as in an entertainment medium based entirely on fantasy, producing the same sort of flawed arguments that got disbarred frickin' lawyer Jack Thompson to go on a tirade saying that all violent video games like Doom and Grand Theft Auto make people shoot up schools, when every study that has ever attempted to link video games and violence has failed to find a link. And just like freaking the feminists' own cited research that Dan Golding and his many associates and his cabal of feminist friends have tried to cite, that very own research produced by Ariana Shaw says that gamers repeatedly say that the only thing that makes them identify as the word gamer has to do with how much video games they play. Her research also says that the surveyed participants, which included all sorts of sexualities and gender identities and races and whatever, that almost all of them said, hey, I don't necessarily identify myself as the protagonist on the screen. I project myself onto the protagonist and treat the game as if I am playing. This is the same way how I've played many games as a female character. I have friends that usually just play as a female character to simply not be like all the other male characters running around, because video games are not... Gamers are not 50% women. Casual gamers are, which is a completely different market. Your Call of Duties, your Halos, your World of Warcrafts are not 50% female. That's not true. And I wouldn't necessarily qualify little browser games like Candy Crush, which is simply a puzzle on a screen, and shit like Farmville is to be literally video games. It's false equivalence. So what you're dealing with is a dishonest, sexist, classist, and racist organization that can't be allotted their own space and needs to come take over yours. And it isn't to make your games more progressive, it's to make your games more feminist. And instead of this broad diversity of markets that tailor to, yes, even the people who like to play Candy Crush, as well as the people who like to cause mass violence on Call of Duty in a fantasy, mind you, not a real-life environment, that all these individual submarkets that do not overlap in interests and interested parties must all be tailored not to you, not to me, whoever you are and whoever I am, but to feminists. This is a selfish, egocentric, narcissistic initiative by racist, classist people who don't like me because I'm white, who don't like me because I'm male, who don't like me because I'm middle class, who don't like me because I am an able-bodied person, and don't like me because I'm straight. Do you understand here? They're basically using their victimhood of, oh, look at me, I get trolled. Oh, look at me, I get threats online. Oh, look at me, I'm a woman, and women were historically oppressed and are still oppressed in non-Western society where they are equal with men under the law. They're using that to say, oh, poor little old me, come feel sorry for me. Don't check my facts. Don't question my motives, and don't ask me what I mean. And don't ask me to provide any evidence. Remember that I am a victim, like a domestic abuse survivor or something like that. All I need is your pity, your sympathy, your attention, and your money, Lebowski. It's a scam. It's a racket, as far as the people like Anita Sarkeesian go. And for everyone else, it's some sort of bizarre new form of mass social media sociopathy, which I really hope people start studying in universities and not the ones that offer extensive gender studies degrees. Thanks, that'll be all.